Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, welcome everyone to another Lord MEHER reading. We're going to pick it up where we left off here. We're in 1940, and I can't quite see the page number.
2166.
The bottom of 2166.
Okay, we're in November.
All right, Rosalie, why don't you start us off, please?
Okay. Where do you want me to start? Kaka or what? Okay. Kaka, who was also looking for must in Ceylon, helped Dan, Chanji, and Vishnu in this search. On the morning of the 8th of November, Baba went to Kandy with Elizabeth, Rano, Kitty, Baidul, and Chanji to choose a bungalow from the 4 selected by the men. They picked up Dawn on the way. They returned in the evening, having found all unsuitable. The search continued. That night, Baba narrated to a woman a story that Chanji had told him. One of my devotees was working in an office when suddenly he went blind. His family was miserable because of his plight. He was treated by doctors and taken to an oculist, but they could do nothing for him except console patients. Chanji happened to visit the man. Chanji knew he had faith in me, so he advised, keep Baba's locket in water and apply the water to your eyes. The man began faithfully following the advice without resorting to any other treatment. He also stopped taking his prescribed medicine. Chanji sat with him as the man put a locket of me in a glass of water. What? Chanji sat with him as the man put a locket of me in a glass of water. Locket of Baba. After a little while, he applied the water to his eyes. Chanji kept him company for the next 2 hours. Suddenly, the man saw a black spot, and in it appeared a vision of me walking toward him. He told Chanji, who was overjoyed. The next day, Chanji again went to see him. His vision had continued to improve. He told Chanji, come closer, I can see you very dimly. After that, his sight improved so quickly that within 2 days, he returned to work, to the utter amazement of the doctors. The search for a suitable bungalow somewhere in Ceylon continued. Baba expressed his wish to return to Bandarawela, where he had stayed in January 1933. He likes the Victory House there, but the owner's mother had died unexpectedly, and Norina was unable to contact the person. Meanwhile, Chanji was having a difficult time trying to please Baba, seemingly failing every time. He was so distracted that once when he was wearing his glasses, he began frantically looking for them. Kaka saw him and asked him what he was looking for. When Chanji told him, Kaka exclaimed, they're on your nose. On 11 November, after breakfast, Norina asked Baba, why should everything apparently go wrong when you wish to work in Ceylon? The weather is awful, we cannot find a place to stay. The press interview you gave was not successful. And now some of the local Christians and Buddhists are stirring up things against you. Baba explained, I have come here for work, and only work matters to me. What is praise or insult to me? Opposition is a help, not a hindrance in my work. The sun shines daily, shedding light on all. It is not concerned with whether people praise it or speak ill of it. It sheds light equally on those who praise it and those who curse it. But when the clouds appear, the sun is hidden. Then people long for its light and warmth. When the clouds disperse and the sun shines with full splendor, only then do people know its true value. Were it not for the clouds, people would not appreciate the sun. Thus, opposition is like the clouds. To appreciate the value of the sun's light, clouds are necessary. Continuing, Baba said, can you see how God works? No, yet whether the atheists believe God does not exist or whether others worship him, God keeps on working in his own way. He is unaffected by praise or insult. Take, for example, the ant. You hardly think of their existence. To you, they are absolutely insignificant. Yet they have a body, soul, and a world of their own. Say you are spiritually ants, and I am spiritually human. I work for the evolution of the ants to make them become human beings. If an ant bites you, you brush it off. Therefore, what does it matter to me if an ant bites me or brings me sugar? I remain unaffected, but naturally it reacts on the ant. It is nobody's fault. It all has to be. The reporter who recently interviewed Baba, poor boy, has a limited conception and is more interested in my throat not being impaired by not speaking than the value of truth. Chimpy, who is Chanji, said it was all a bad sign. I said, on the contrary, it is a good sign. Now it is definite. I will stay here for my work, for opposition helps the work. Later in the afternoon that day, Baba decided to move to a house in Kandy. He remarked, in Ceylon, everything hopeful is hopeless, and everything hopeless is hopeful. At least in this new bungalow, there are no ghosts. When some of the women looked relieved by this last remark, Baba commented, why be afraid of ghosts? A ghost means a human being without a body. And in that bodiless state, he has to remain as long as the sanskaras of his previous birth last. Then he takes another birth. Ghosts are miserable. They have desires like any of us. They try to come in contact with human beings to fulfill their desires. When it is dark and silent, their subtle, smoky bodies become transparent. You have gross, subtle, and mental bodies. They have only subtle and mental bodies. But these are not as limited as the gross. When stretched out, The gross, subtle body stretches out in all directions, upwards and sideways. That makes you shiver and scream when you see them like that. Depending on surroundings, darkness, and quietude, they can be seen. Their bodies can enlarge and shrink. That is why in dreams, the subtle bodies go anywhere, stretching out and out. They can also be photographed in suitable conditions, depending upon the surroundings, time, light, and the photographer. These discarnate spirits wish to contact living human beings. If Rano, a heavy smoker, has no body and for some reason becomes a ghost, she does not get another physical body until certain sanskaras are spent. They may be spent in 1 year or 1,000,000 years. All depends on the contacts made to spend one's sanskaras. Wow. For instance, Rano has her craving for smoking cigarettes. She sees Kitty smoking. She too wants to smoke and tries to contact Kitty to have a cigarette. But contact with the gross body by the subtle body is almost impossible. Kitty feels the presence of the subtle body and is scared. But poor Rano only wants to have a smoke. In some instances, she, Rano, the ghost, becomes so desperate that she waits until Kitty nods to sleep, even the tiniest little bit, and then smokes through Kitty's gross body. The subtle can enter any gross body or thing. When it enters you, you don't even know it and are not at all affected. But it can only enter your body when you are not conscious, when you are sleeping. How many spirits have been drinking tea through Norina when she is not conscious? But the spirit has no hold. It does not reside in you or possess you, but just goes like the wind. And it only happens sometimes. Don't think about it, or you will go mad. It is of no importance, so trivial, so insignificant. Sometimes you feel angry for nothing. This might be some spirit wanting to spend sanskaras of anger through you. But this is so unimportant, not worth thinking about. Our bodies are full of germs, but we don't think about it. If we did and tried to picture it in our minds, we would go mad. Masters are so bothered by these spirits, you have no idea. They want to touch me for liberation, and they do. Always keep one thought in mind, that only God is real. Who is God? That which is one in existence. All things that exist are that one. If you say that exists, then that one is God. Everything else is automatically nothing. And if nothing exists, then that nothing too is that one God. Can you grasp this? All this is nothing. The only thought you must have in mind is that nothing exists. Zero exists. This nothing, too, is God. One God exists. Nothing else exists. When you say nothing else exists, You mean nothing to exist. What is nothing? That too is the same one God. To call God one is not really right. God cannot be two. God is not one. It is all God. Everything is God. Nothing is God. So just think about it. Serena said something about duality, and Baba asked, "You mean duality exists? What is it? Nothing exists but God, so this duality is also the same God." And now we come to this. It is the same God playing different parts at one and the same time. He plays the part of the universal God who is beyond everything that is conscious. He plays the part of being falsely conscious of being this body. He plays the part of the creator. He plays the part of being himself consciously in creation. Kabir has said, one God is the avatar. One God is the soul of every being. One God creates all, and one God is everything. Baba then drew the following diagram. Looks like a football. And it says XYZ, and it says, a little print, it says, it is the one and the same God. When X, conscious God, realizes Y, unconscious God, God becomes Z, God perfect. Explaining what he meant by conscious and unconscious, Baba stated, not unconscious in the sense of chloroform. Unconscious means that you have infinite power, bliss, and knowledge, but you cannot use it unless you have normal consciousness. Also, it means knowing that you have this infinite in you. Kitty interrupted. Is there a better word for conscious and unconscious? No other word for it, Baba replied. I will give you an example to make you understand conscious and unconscious. The example has a flaw in it, but it will make it clearer. There is a mountain of gold. Unless you excavate it, take out the gold, use it, and sell it, you cannot get money for it. You without gold are helpless, and gold without you is of no use. You dig it out, sell it, and with it, you get what you want. So used gold is conscious, unused, unconscious. Now, the flaw is that gold is a metal, and you, however, are human. The mountain is gold, God, and you are gold, God. The one and the same God in all. Why is this creation? God has to experience himself as having infinite power, knowledge, and bliss. God does not change. Passing the torch.
All right. Eugene, why don't you pick it up here? While in Ceylon.
Baba was giving Chadi Baba a bath each day. But on Monday, 11 November 1940, Chadi Baba gave Baba a bath. When Baba went to him, Chadi Baba picked up a pail of water and poured it over Baba. The must was so happy he took another full pail and asked Baba, "Shall I pour more?" Baba nodded, and Chadi Baba was laughing and laughing while Baba allowed him to pour 10 to 12 more buckets over him. I knew it made him very happy, Baba later informed the Mandali. Although it was rainy, chilly weather at the time in Ceylon, and Baba was highly susceptible to catching colds, he allowed the must to indulge himself in this manner. Hikgala estate was a coconut plantation, and Baba gave coconuts to each of the women to eat one day. But to Rano, he said, "Don't eat it. It will affect your throat." Rano replied, "In America, I used to eat lots of coconuts, and they never gave me a sore throat." "Why do you always argue?" Baba scolded. "Why don't you listen to what I say?" Baba went on warning her not to eat the coconut, and at last Rano gave in and said, "I won't eat it, since it will affect my throat." This answer pleased Baba, and he forgave her. As usual, Baba was busy in must work and would sometimes leave Colombo to contact different musts. His trip to Ceylon was mainly for this purpose, though no detailed information is available of the musts whom Baba contacted. But it is also significant that he traveled with such a large group of both men and women during wartime. Although the women could not move about freely, each had a duty to perform. Each person was kept under the master's grindstone. Their minds were continually being assailed to crush their egos, a state not possible to describe. News of Baba's residence near Colombo spread as an article and editorial about Baba was printed in the Sunday edition of the Times of Ceylon on the 10th. A few people arrived at the bungalow for his darshan, but Baba did not meet them because of his seclusion. He had publicly declared that he would be in seclusion for 1 year, from August 1940 to August 1941. Baba went to see a new bungalow in Kandy with Kitty, Rano, Don, Vishnu, Baidul, and Chanji on 13 November, and he approved of it. 3 days later, on the 16th, Baba and the group left Vayangoda for Kandy at 8:30 a.m. in 2 buses, a car and a truck for their luggage. 2 hours later, they arrived at the bungalow called Primrose Hill Tea Estate on Hololua Road and found it very beautiful. Baba stayed on the hill with the men Mandali and Chadi Baba. The women were accommodated separately at the foot of the hill. There were many lizards in Kandy. Because there was a danger they would urinate or defecate in the food, parentheses, their urine and excreta are extremely poisonous, Katie would brush them off the wall, and Baidul's daughter, Daula, would kill them. On Sunday, 17 November, Daula reported to Baba that she had killed 7 lizards in only 15 minutes. Baba was not happy. But Katie said in her defense, "If any of them fall in the food, we could die." Baba instructed them, "Don't kill lizards. Any animal that directly injures should be killed, but not lizards. Catch them and throw them outside. They eat flies and are useful. He added in a teasing manner, if you kill them, you will be a lizard in your next birth. On the 17th, Chadi Baba's mood changed, and he got so angry he threw his food and dishes out of the window. He kept repeating, I am hungry, I am a child. But each of the 3 times the men tried to feed him, he tossed the plate full of food away. He asked for 2 buckets of water and poured them over the stone floor of his room. Then he sat in the middle of the puddle. The next day, Chadi Baba shut himself in his room and would not open the door. Baba wanted to work with him and kept knocking for him to open up. Finally, he did, enabling Baba to sit alone with him. Later that day, 18 November, when Baba went to be with the women, he informed them, today, I worked with Chadi Baba very well, most satisfactorily. But I was so hot that I had to change my clothes twice. I never saw the old must so happy, all the time laughing and uttering, I am a child, I am old. He had a big meal today and mixed his rice, dal, and water all together. Today he told the boy to bring in mud, spread it on the floor, and he sat in it. I told the boys to give him whatever he asked for. I too worked hard today. He was quite happy, sitting in the mud and water. Every time I go to him, I get splashed. Just think, he sits in the mud and water for 24 hours with the winds howling through the open windows, with practically nothing on, and he never catches a cold or suffers rheumatism. Even Sandow, a famous bodybuilder, couldn't do that. Divine power helps these souls remain healthy because they have no consciousness of the body. They say, let God bother, and God has to bother. It is a fact. Those from the 4th plane up cannot get ill. Here's a note here. Musts and saliks may become ill due to inclement weather, infections, germs, etc. But because they have no connection with their physical bodies, it does not affect them. Some display outward signs of illness and some do not. Does a child ever bother about its body or health? The mother looks after that. Saints are real children and God is their mother. And until you become a child, you cannot enter this kingdom. Picture Narina as a child, but mad. I can see Nadia as a child, but not as mad. If she were mad, she would start biting Narina's nose. And if Narina were mad, Elizabeth would catch the first boat to America. If Carmen Masi were mad, she would throw Banubai out the window, and Mansari would throw each and every one out the window. Kitty would learn 10 more languages to cook together in one pot. Baba was teasing about their various characters. Kitty was supervising the kitchen, and because the maids did not understand English, she had dutifully learned a few Marathi words. But she could not pronounce any of them properly, which amused Baba no end. 2 days later, when Baba was trying to bathe Chadi Baba, as usual on the 20th, not only did the must persistently and adamantly refuse, but he insisted on bathing Baba again with his own hands, and Baba was drenched. Later, Baba said he was giving up working with Chadi Baba and declared that he would get his work done in some other way. He now wished to leave Ceylon and instructed Chanji to find a suitable bungalow on the western coast of India. There's a note here. Chanji left the next day for Calicut and Cochin, and the source is Donkin's diary, 20 November 1940. 4 carloads of people came to see Baba on Thursday, 21 November 1940, but he sent Narina to talk to them and did not meet them. Since he wished to remain in seclusion, did not meet them since he wished to remain in seclusion. At 10 a.m., he went with the women in Elizabeth's car to the botanical gardens. The next day, Baba stayed with the men the whole day, fasting on water and honey. On the 23rd, he took the women on a tour of Kandy and to the lake. They also went to see some elephants bathing and performing tricks. The blue bus had been sent from Meherabad, and it arrived in Kandy on the afternoon of 23rd November. The next day, Baba took the women to several places connected with Buddha.
All right, thanks, Eugene. Eva, why don't you pick it up here?
Okay. They left at 7:30 a.m. and reached Dambula at 10:30 a.m. At Anuradhapura, they saw the Bodhi tree under which the Buddha attained God realization. And footnote, this tree in Ceylon is a sapling from the original Bodhi tree in India, under which Gautama attained enlightenment. Baba came to the women's quarters at 5:30 a.m. on Monday, 25 November. He directed them to sing Hari Paramatma at 8 a.m. every morning and the Tu Nirakar, You Are Formless prayer every evening at 6 p.m. Irene Billow's father, who had met Baba several times, had died at the end of October. Discussing his death on 27 November, Baba informed her, "You should be happy. Your father was very lucky. He died like Vivekananda without suffering. He is free. All relations of those who are with me, whether they know me or not, or even if they do not believe in me, get salvation. Krishna has said 72 generations of such lucky ones get liberation." Baba added about present world conditions. During this period, half the world will die, perhaps even my mother. Before proceeding to Ceylon, Baba had expressed a wish to obtain a quiet, secluded place near Ahmednagar. Sarosh had shown Baba 2 or 3 properties on the way to Rahuri, but Baba did not approve of them. Pandu had also shown Baba a spot near Ahmednagar town, but that too he did not like. One day during this period, Vishnu read in the newspaper that some acreage near Pimpalgan tank was to be auctioned. When the artificial lake was being constructed at the turn of the century to supply water to Ahmednagar, a cottage had been built for the British engineer and others working on the project. Baba went to see the place, approved of it, and gave his permission to buy it when it was auctioned. In 1927, Baba had visited Pimpalgan Lake twice. At that time, there was no mention of Baba residing in the vicinity, and none of the Mandali ever imagined that Baba would one day make it his permanent place of residence. He had not even hinted about it then. He had only remarked, "This place is really very good, and the climate is good also." The auction was held on 11 November 1940 when Baba was in Ceylon, and that morning he repeatedly asked the Mandali with him, "Will we get the rest house at the auction? If we get it, it will be good." Adi Sr.'s father, Kaikushru Irani, was a member of the Ahmednagar Municipality Executive Committee, and he intervened in making certain that Sarosh and Pendu won the bid. They were successful with the bid of 800 rupees, and on 28 November sent this telegram to Baba: "Pimpalgaon bungalow bought." And footnote, the actual sale deed between the Ahmednagar Borough Municipal Committee and Baba was not executed until 18 April 1944. Discussions arose about going to Calicut, and on the 28th, Narina complained to Baba about the luggage, saying, "How will we accommodate all this baggage in the bus?" Baba remarked, "Do you want comfort when people are suffering so much in the war? Learn not to complain when anything is bad, and don't be so pleased if it is good." The next day, while discussing politics with the women, Baba commented, "There are three types of souls: man, saint, and God-man. The saints are higher than men, and the God-man higher than saints. Among men, Gandhi is surely one of the greatest today. Some call him a Mahatma, and some call him a fool. He has his weaknesses, but he is a great soul. Gopal Krishna Gokal, Lokmanya Tilak, and Ferozeshah Mehta were the pillars of Indian politics. All three were great, but Tilak was the greatest of them all. In politics, Gandhi was his disciple. When Baba left Chadi Baba's hut on 29 November, the must became so agitated, he smashed the panes of glass in the door with his fists. When the boy came to clear away the glass, Chadi Baba said, "No, leave it as it is." Baba returned to see him, and this time when he left, the must was quite happy. England was being heavily bombed by the Germans at the time, and Baba said that Chati Baba's outburst, the first of its kind, was related to this. Chati Baba's peculiar behavior in Ceylon was not related only to events in Europe, but also to events which would transpire nearly 50 years in the future, as the following incident reveals. Krishna continued to attend to Chati Baba during the day and to do night watch near Baba at night. In Baba's room, Krishna was not permitted to move while Baba was lying down. If Krishna shifted his position even slightly, Baba would say he was disturbed by the sound of Krishna's clothes rubbing together. Whenever moving into a new bungalow, Baba always selected rooms for each of the mandali and for himself. In Kandy, Chati Baba's room was a few doors down from Baba's. At midnight one night, the must began yelling and screaming. He picked up the metal bath buckets and chairs and threw them across the room. Then he tore up his bed sheets. The noise awoke the mandali, but Baba was snoring. Krishna began thinking, what type of God is Baba? Is he really all-knowing? After some time, Baba rose and asked for a glass of water. What are you thinking? He motioned to Krishna. I am wondering whether you really are God. Why? Why do you think such a thing? Baba, every night I sit in front of you like a stone. I cannot move an inch. The tiniest sound from my clothes disturbs you. But Chati Baba has been shouting at the top of his voice and throwing things for nearly 1 hour while you are enjoying a sound sleep. Baba glared at Krishna. He put his fingers to his lips and said, keep quiet. Again, Baba lay down, but soon he got up and asked, what are you thinking this time? The same thing, Baba. What do you want to know? Baba demanded. What was the reason for Chati Baba's outburst? Baba spelled out, after many years, there will be a civil war in Ceylon. I have done this work through Chati Baba. I have brought him to Ceylon for that purpose. Since Chati Baba is the one who is working, in the meantime, I am resting. In the mid-1980s, as Baba foretold, civil war did break out in Ceylon between the Tamil separatists in the north and the Sinhalese-dominated government in the south. Thousands upon thousands of people have been killed in the conflict. On Sunday, 1 December 1940, remarking about his work in Ceylon, particularly with the women, Baba explained, for my work, I have to tour to make inner contacts. When I did that before, I went on walking tours with the men mandali. We were hungry, thirsty, tired, sleeping out of doors, and putting up with all discomforts. But you women cannot do that. You want a house with tap water, toilets, lights, and so on. This makes a wrong impression on certain people, but I don't mind that. I only care about my work. Even with all these conveniences, half of you are sick. To be alone would be the greatest luxury for me. Just work, to do as I want and nothing else. But for my work, I have to keep you all with me. You have not the slightest notion what work I have been doing through you. So go on doing as I tell you and nothing else. In Jaipur, I will park you in one place and go out for some days and return when my work is over. Christ chose the right type of disciples, not too ardent, not too dull. All were fishermen. And later on, Christ did so much work through them. The work of the master is affected by the conduct of his disciples. As the public always judges a master from the behavior of his followers. Spiritually, Ceylon is dry. Inwardly, it is dry. Outwardly, it is wet. Ceylon is called the land of Ravana. It is like a rock that cannot store water. The water flows away when poured on it. These dogmatic Buddhists are so dry, without feeling or emotion. India is the most spiritual, but not South India. It is very spiritual northward from Hyderabad. Actions and activities done in the world have no meaning for me. Just external worldly activity, nursing the wounded, charity for the poor, etc. But this life you lead is meaningful. For one thing, as you are with me, you are free of worldly actions of greed, lust, etc., that create attachment. Why don't you go to the movies? You don't have contact with men, don't touch money or men. Who would not like to go to the pictures? But this outer thing would leave an impression on you, and you would be unknowingly affected by it. And you learn to have self-control. Don't do what you like, but carry out my wish. But you should do it wholeheartedly, cheerfully, and sincerely. Otherwise, what's the good of it? On 2 December, Rastomji Bilamoria, his wife and daughter-in-law, came to see Baba in Kandy. Baba met them in the men's quarters, and then took the 2 women to meet the women mandali. As he brought them in, a song was playing on the radio titled, "What Do You Know About Love?" Baba repeated the refrain and asked the women, "What do you know about love?"
Eva, let me interrupt you. Say, let's have one more reader here.
Sure.
I think I can finish up here now. Let's see. Okay, so Bob was talking to the women. What do you know about love? This love on the radio is Broadway love, but what do you know about real love? Here is a story of an example of that love. There was a great saint named Zachariah. He would always do what pleased God. Once in a dream, God ordered him to sit under a certain tree. When he awakened, he went and sat there and never moved for 5 years, in spite of tears and pleading from his family and friends. Hearing about this, the king of the place sent his men, ordering Zechariah to come to him, but the saint would not budge. The king then ordered his men to saw him in half if he did not obey, and Zechariah let himself be sawed without moving. This is an instance of great real love, obeying God's order in a dream. And here you have God in person, who asks you to do such little things, and you cannot do it. After finishing his must-work in Kandy, although the Primrose Hill bungalow had been rented for 3 months, Baba left for Calicut at 7 a.m. on Thursday, 5th December 1940, having stayed for only 20 days. They drove to Mannar in the blue bus and cars, and from there they boarded a boat to take them back to India. Most of the men and Chati Baba left the day before and traveled by train. The journey was not without the usual mishaps. Near Mannar, the bus got stuck in the sand. Elizabeth's car tire got punctured. It began pouring rain. All the bedding, all the ladies, and Baba got wet, Don recorded in his diary. And Baba, as usual, our king and avatar, is the last to get on the ship at 11:30 p.m., carrying Elizabeth's bag for her after 4 hours waiting about, seeing to everyone and everything. Baba and the ladies slept or tried to sleep on the ship, and Vishnu and I slept nicely in the bus. The boat left the next morning for Dhanushkodi, India, and Baba and the women reached Ramnad by train at 3 p.m., where they stayed at a dock bungalow. Don and Nilu had followed in the blue bus and met them there. Tukaram drove Elizabeth's car, and Don drove the blue bus with Nilo as his cleaner assistant mechanic. In Ramnad, on the 7th, Baba contacted a great saint, a 115-year-old must named Palukola Baba. Baba was quite happy with this meeting and contacted the old must several times in the course of the day. He remarked that the saint was exceptional, between the 6th and 7th planes, and referred to him as king of all musts. Meanwhile, that day at the bungalow, Katie slipped and fell while carrying a kettle of hot tea and got burned when the hot tea spilled on her. Katie Kakabaria was shaving at the time in his room, and seeing her fall, went to help her. At that moment, Baba appeared and harshly castigated Kaka. He demanded, "Why did you disobey me? According to the list of orders, touching women is forbidden." Kaka replied he was sorry, that he forgot and was only trying to help her. Baba scolded, "Had you taken the order seriously, you would have remembered it. You think you have done a good deed, but you have no idea how much you have hurt me. Even if Katie had died, you should not have touched her. Then I would have been proud of how obedient you were. But her fall has made you fall in disregarding my order." Later, Baba forgave Kaka and commented to the women, without explaining further, "It was a special day today." On Saturday, 8th December at 7 a.m., Baba and the group departed Ramnad by the blue bus and car and reached Calicut at 11 a.m. 2 days later. They had traveled via Dindigul, Palni, Polachi, and Palgat. At one point, everyone had to get out of the bus and ford across a small river on foot. They stayed 5 miles outside Calicut at Ceylon Lodge. Ranhipalam Baba liked the place. Oh, that's the name of it. Baba liked the place. He immediately did his inner work with Chati Baba, and soon after went to look for other musts in the area. Kaka brought a high must on the 11th, who Baba said radiated God. Baidul brought many others, some of whom were simply mad or hungry. Baba fed them all, gave them baths and new kafnis. Baba delineated a few signs peculiar to musts. Musts never stick to an exclusively milk diet like yogis. They always sit apart. They usually have some odd movements of their hands or feet or head. They see bits of cloth. They tie bits of cloth around their fingers, toes, legs, and arms. They chew tobacco, drink tea, chew pan, or smoke endlessly. They may talk nonsense. Saints like Chati Baba, however, don't act like this. They look venerable, but are often childish, as is the case with Chati Baba. One day, soon after arriving in Calicut, Chati Baba lost his temper and shouted, "This place is hopeless, and I am burning badly." So Baba bathed him with almost 200 buckets of water. But after half an hour, Chati Baba again wanted a bath. Baba again came to bathe him, but the must did not allow it this time, and instead bathed himself with hundreds of pails of water and remarked, "This is a place where there is neither food nor water." Throughout this period, Baba and both the men and women Mandali were adhering to their 2 meals a day fast. On 12th December 1940, Baba explained another point to the women about meditation. Those of you who are unable to meditate should repeat my name without being bothered by thoughts. Thoughts are like mosquitoes, and my name is the mosquito net. When you are within the mosquito net, the mosquitoes may buzz around you, but they cannot bite you. Thus, by repeating my name, like the mosquito net, it will save you from the stings of the mosquito thoughts that try to distract you, and you will be unmoved. On the 13th, after working with Chari Baba and the new must in Ceylon Lodge, Baba came to the women smiling and remarked, "My work was most satisfactory today. I am very, very happy." To celebrate, Baba distributed toddy, bujia, and chiwada. Baba's face was glowing like a full moon, and his eyes radiated light. The women were awestruck and affected by the strong fermented toddy, began chanting the prayer, Hari Paramatma Allah Ahorzamada, God Yazdan Hu. Margaret began dancing for Baba. They were like Mastanis while gazing at the beloved's beauty, and only Mani, Rano, and Norina managed to maintain their sense of decorum. Baba then went to the men and handed out the treats to them. Footnote, Kaka and Erich had brought a chadi of toddy for the men as well, but the chadi had broken before the toddy could be distributed. Calicut was too hot, so on Monday, 16 November 1940, Baba decided to proceed to Jaipur, and he sent Chanji ahead to find suitable bungalows. It was decided that all should travel to Jaipur by train, and that Don and Nilo should bring the empty blue bus with the luggage. Bob had intended to allow MEHER's nieces, Meru and Nagu, to join him in Ceylon, along with the Kotwal sisters, Hilla and Naju, whose mother and younger brother Adi were already with Baba. However, the weather in Ceylon had been so inclement, their visit was canceled. Baba now called Meru and Nagu to Calicut. They were brought by Masaji about the 17th. After escorting the girls, Masaji immediately returned to Meherabad. Kaka was sent back to Bombay at this time, and Erich joined Baba from Bangalore. Erich brought his family and Gulamasi with him. They too were to have joined Baba in Ceylon and had been vaccinated before Baba changed the plan. Footnote, Dolly, who had been staying with the Jeswalas in Bangalore, remained there with her brother Adi Sr. Their sister Paroja was with Baba and the women's group. Baba Das came to Calicut 3 times, but Baba did not see him, for he was still in seclusion and did not wish his work to be disturbed. One day, however, according to Erich, Don was on his way to the post office when from a distance he spotted a disheveled, bearded figure in a long robe who he thought was a must. He reported this to Baba, who instructed Erich to bring him the person. When Don and Erich approached the man, they were surprised to discover that it was Baba Das. Baba had said to bring the must to him, so he was brought, and Baba chuckled at Don's mistake. Pendu had been ordered to help Chanji in arranging for housing. He left Meherabad for Jodhpur. Don reserved 2 railway compartments for the group, and they prepared to leave. The proprietor of Calicut's Ceylon Lodge was the owner of a Margot soap factory. He came to know about Meher Baba and that he was occupying his premises and wished to refund the rent, which had been paid in advance for several months. But Baba sent him word to keep it as prasad from him. Baba and his group of 42 persons departed Calicut on the afternoon of 23 December after having stayed for 2 weeks. Despite their efforts, Despite their best efforts, Chanji and Pendu had not been able to locate a house in Jaipur city, and so they had gone to Jodhpur, Udaipur, and Bundi to try there, as Baba had instructed. At last they found accommodations on the outskirts of Jaipur on Amber Road at a bungalow called Irani Kawasji Bagh, owned by Kawas Bala Bukshiji. A shrine of a Mohammedan saint was located in the compound. Pendu and Chanji informed Baba and then received Baba's telegram stating that he had left Calicut and ordering them to reserve train compartments from Agra to Jaipur. Chanji left immediately for Agra, and Pendu remained behind to make all the preparation for Baba's arrival. It was extremely difficult to reserve empty compartments during the Christmas holidays, but by Baba's nazar, Chanji was successful. Baba and the group arrived in Jaipur at 5 o'clock Thursday evening, December 1940. The first thing Baba did on arrival was apportion individual rooms and beds to all in the group. As age describes, Baba was attentive to the minutest detail of the women's lives. Everyone's freedom was restricted within the limits prescribed by him. It is difficult to have an idea of just how these women were living. In some respects, the limitations imposed by Baba exceeded those put on prisoners. But the beloved's restraints, instead of binding one further, were those which served to snap the chains of bondage and open the inner doors to freedom. Even though every thought is limited by such restrictions, and the mind, which is hurt the most, revolts at every step. This is why it is next to impossible to stay for any length of time with a perfect master. Every breath brings pain to the ego, and at times being alive becomes a living death. Pendu was sent to Jodhpur on 3 November 1941 to locate musts, and he returned 2 days later with a list of possible contacts. Baba proceeded to Jodhpur by train on the 6th to contact a few of them, accompanied only by Erich and Gustaji. One 6th plain must named Nanga Sadhu lived some miles away near a military barracks. He was a middle-aged man with bushy hair and a beard. He was guarded by a sentry who had 2 servants to look after him. Baba went in a tonga to contact him. The must has no bodily consciousness. He didn't eat until someone fed him. He was sitting on a heap of sand with his hands over his face. When he started on the spiritual path, Baba explained, he did not want to see the world at all, so he covered his face with his hands. Now, from habit, he still does the same thing. When they arrived, the sentry was on duty. As Baba wished to contact the must alone, they returned to the dak bungalow. But as soon as they arrived, Baba wanted to return to the must immediately. Baba wanted to return to the must immediately, which they did. This time the sentry was gone. Baba told Erich and Gustaji to stand far away while he worked with the must alone for half an hour. By the time Baba completed his work, the sentry had returned and was agitated. Baba said to tip him generously, which appeased the man. They returned to the dak bungalow to have a meal, but again Baba wanted to return to the must. Back they went in a tonga for a 3rd time. The sentry was not there, and again Baba contacted the must alone for half an hour. When Baba was with the must did not cover his face. But when Baba was leaving, the must kept looking at him through his fingers. Baba also contacted a high Mastani named Mastani Mai, who likewise was not conscious of her body. She was covered with rags, and flies hovered around a wound on her leg, which was swollen. Rich devotees gave her food and clothes, but she left it all by her side and gave it to the poor. Baba contacted her 7 times near the Dak bungalow, once when she was alone without devotees around her. Baba returned to Jaipur at noon on January 8th. Meeting with the women that day, Baba described his contacts. Baba gave a delightful imitation of the must who was peeping through his fingers at Baba, Mani recorded. Emphasizing the importance of his must work, Baba remarked, "Before I speak, I have to contact 75% of the musts in the world. I have already contacted 70%. Now only 5% remain." Baba also commented, "What chaos prevails in the whole world. Here we don't realize all the misery. When Margaret has a toothache, she says, 'Damn the world and its quarrels, I have a toothache.' For her toothache, Margaret wishes the whole world to help. But why not for me? Create such an ache for me that your ego is uprooted." He once told them, "Unless you become the dust of the master, you cannot stay with me. You can all go to hell. I have a strong mind to send you all away." One evening, soon after they had arrived in Jaipur, Baba humorously related to the women, "We are going to publish a new book on milk and Kitty's adventures with the milkman. Every day the cows don't give enough milk, and the Mandali and Kitty and the milkman all go crazy arguing about it. Then the milkman turns to me and says, 'You are the only good man here. All the others harass me.'" Fierce tigers abound in Jaipur. A local old man used to come and tell the Mandali to beware, as a tiger had just killed an animal or a human at such and such a place. Once Krishna told this to Baba, and Baba directed him to ask Chadi Baba about it. When he approached the must with the news, Chadi Baba said, "Everyone will be butchered to pieces," but did not elaborate. When it was reported to Baba that a tiger had killed a man just a mile from their bungalow, Baba ordered the women to lock all the doors by 7 o'clock each evening. Then he quipped, "I don't mind tigers. I mind fighting disciples." Okay, I think it's time to stop here, yes. All right, thanks everybody. Let's note that page number and we could end the recording.